Following program contains language and subject matter that you may consider unsuitable for children. Parental discretion is advised.
Greetings, Earthling. His Highness the JACKALS.
The JACKALS.
I'm going to pass the reins to Mr. Jackal, the new king of radio.
I think Jackal's Latino. I'm not sure, but he'll give it to you good.
The JACKALS.
Welcome one, welcome all. Anyone listening from here to the cosmos, you're listening to Inside the Jackal's Head live back on PSN Radio. This is, of course, Sunday, July 28th, 2019. I'm so excited to be on live with you guys tonight. Live from Miami, Florida. Sunny South Florida, which has been very rainy the last 72 hours. Not that sunny. You'd be kind of surprised. Now this week I'm going to go and post some stuff that probably are going to get a few people scared, but don't get scared. There's a good chance I might need back surgery. And I just found out about this, about a week and a half ago. I haven't really talked about it much, but I have to see a surgeon this week. I have, some bad news on the back front, but the good news is no tumors, just a herniated disc that caused breakage. And we're going to go and take a look at it. So I might need spine surgery. That's fun. Having somebody poke your back with a needle and knives and right into the spine. Not looking forward to it, but, I'll tell everybody what's going on. The websites are getting a facelift. If you're listening to us right now on www.psn-radio.com, welcome. That website is going to be seeing a little bit of an upgrade within the next few days. So the way you see it now, it's going to change. Don't freak out about that. It's something we have to do. And also my main website for this show, thejackalshead.com, also is going to get a little bit of an upgrade. And, it's going to be a lot of work. So if I do have to have back surgery, I'm going to probably have something to do for a few days while I recuperate. I'm really not looking forward to going under the knife. If you guys want to send me any well wishes, please do so at info@psn-radio.com. The email for the entire network again is info@psn-radio.com. Any personal stuff you want to send me, just go to Inside the Jackal's Head main website, thejackal.com. Actually will take you everywhere. And tonight during this second hour, I have again the pleasure of bringing in Jeremiah Greer, who needs no introduction if you have actually been following this show for, the long time that it's been on air, which is now going on about, 10 years? On and off, because I took several years off from this particular show, as we all know. I said, I'm going to go on break. And that was a long-ass break. I mean, I took a break like if I was from a third world country like Baltimore. That kind of break. My goodness, have you guys seen what's broken in the last 24, 48 hours within Baltimore? The president, of course, tweeted something to Elijah Cummings, one of the Congress folks, who has been very nasty to the commander-in-chief. This man has taken it upon himself since the beginning of the president's presidency. He's gone after the president with Impeach 45. It's been, him and Maxine Waters and a few of the Congress folks talking about, we got to impeach 45. But this was being said before the man was even 45. Like, he was like the president-elect, and they were already like, impeach him! Impeach him! We must And, of course, they recently tried to impeach him. Didn't go through. Al Green failed. And now they want to impeach him for something a crowd did, which is hilarious. The crowd, of course, was chanting, "Send her back!" to Rashada Tlaib, who has been also very nasty to President Trump. And that happened at a North Carolina rally, which is, ironically enough, I think, yeah, that's where Jeremiah's joining us from the Carolinas. And, it's funny because he didn't say anything racist, but every time it seems that he says anything, people yell, "Oh, yeah, well, of course, he's racist." Mind you, Pelosi now denounced Trump's racist attack on Representative Elijah Cummings. That was the car in the background. Again, I'm not in my usual studio, so the soundproofing is not the greatest. You might eventually, once in a while, hear a car, maybe a motorcycle, maybe my dog, Tito, having a nightmare, or maybe he needs to walk, and he's just going to have to, face the music and chill until the show's over. But let's get back to this. Pelosi denounces Trump's racist attacks on Republican Elijah Cummings in the city of Baltimore. Now, Trump wasn't talking about the entire state of Maryland or the entire city of Baltimore. He's talking about the section where Elijah Cummings controls, which is a disaster. He's not playing. People in the area themselves are like, well, actually, Trump is right, Mr. Cummings. In fact, that entire area was very upscale. It was nice neighborhoods until Elijah Cummings became the representative of that city, the city of Baltimore. That's how he got into Congress. And he's been sitting in that chair for a very long time. I think he's either leaving soon or hopefully, he gets voted out if it's up for election now in 2020. Because this man is a complete disaster. He's a nightmare for the people in Baltimore. They have gotten, the president gets criticized a lot. And let's be honest, he puts a lot of stuff out there and he critiques people, but he only does accurate critiquing. I've noticed that. When he says stuff like this, of course everybody on the left is going to be like, well, that's racist, because they have no way to defend themselves. So everything he says is racist. But it's complete hypocrisy, because this area is under a complete mess. There's drugs that's everywhere. Poverty is all over the area. There's buildings that are crack buildings, crack house buildings. It's a nightmare. The president is not lying about this place, but instead of fixing the area and helping the folks down there, bringing construction jobs, bringing local investors into that area, actually doing your job, Mr. Elijah Cummings. You sat on Congress, collected hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars over your entire time there, and you've done absolutely nothing. It is a shame. It's like he said, it's a rat-infested shithole. It really is. And then, of course, we have this other idiot, Victor Blackwell. The name's appropriate. He's a CNN anchor, and he choked up reporting on Trump's latest racist Twitter rant. Choked up. Said Donald Trump has tweeted more than 43,000 times. He's insulted thousands of people, but when he tweets about infestations, it's about black and brown people. Reporter Victor Blackwell said. No, how about it's about the actual rat and shithole infestation that is in the Baltimore area? How about instead of crying about a factual tweet, Victor Blackwell from CNN, stupid asshole, instead of actually crying about the reality of what Trump is saying and saying he's a racist for saying it, how about you become part of the solution and help your friends and brothers out in Baltimore? I mean, this is not rocket science. This is reality. You know, these guys are, I mean, the hypocrisy is incredible. In fact, it's not just a black or white thing. In fact, Bernie Sanders, who is, well, yeah, he's Jewish, but besides that, Pete, and by the way, shout outs to Pete Dickinson, the producer on the show here, is, of course, Silent Pete now. We don't have him on the air anymore. He's behind the glass on the other side of the wall, the other side of cyberspace, somewhere in the cosmos. But I have audio of, yeah, that's right, Pete. I have audio of Bernie Sanders talking about the president. Now, why I want to play this audio, and I want everybody to really pay close attention to this. You have to hear this. This is Bernie Sanders talking about President Trump, the tweets about Baltimore. This is within the last 24 hours they interviewed him, and this is what he had to say.
I know you want to talk about issues, but I do also want to talk about what President Trump said about your former colleague in the House, Elijah Cummings, and his district being, quote, a disgusting rat and rodent-infested mess that no human being would want to live in. What's your response?
Jake, it's unbelievable that we have a president of the United States who attacks American cities, who attacks Americans, who attacks somebody who's a friend of mine. Elijah Cummings is one of the most decent and outstanding members of the House of Representatives. He fights every day to improve life in his community. I do find it interesting that when we have rural Republican districts where life expectancy is going down, where downtowns are boarded up, where people are struggling, and people are struggling in rural America, they're struggling in urban America, they're struggling in suburban America. Our job is to bring people together to improve life for all people, not to have a racist president who attacks people because they are African Americans. That is a disgrace, and that is why we're going to defeat this president.
He obviously thinks...
Okay, let me stop it right there. Now, that's Bernie Sanders within the last 48 hours. You heard right there, he called him a racist. Because the president pointed out that Baltimore, well, it's become kind of a shithole place. But, I start to think, and I do remember...
Attaboy.
Come on. I do remember... Yeah, Pete, that was him crying like a baby. Yes, remember, guys, liberals right now, they have nothing. The Mueller report was a mess. And Trump is pointing out something because Elijah Cummings has been poking at him for many, many months. And a lot of folks on the left, on a daily basis, attack the president. And any time he says anything back, the first thing they say is he's a racist. Racist. Dirty racist. He must be impeached. Get him out of there. Well, thanks to Ben Ferguson, who supplied the audio for this. I had not heard this until my way home tonight, or to where I'm crashing at. And this is astounding. You heard Bernie Sanders here in 2019. Let's listen to Bernie Sanders just a few years ago in 2015, and he's talking about Baltimore. The same place. But nobody said he was racist then. Nobody's saying he's racist now. Should he be kicked out? Should he walk away from the presidential, race? Should he stay in the race? Is he a racist? We know he's a socialist, but listen to this. This is the hypocrisy of Bernie Sanders and the hypocrisy of every person on the left who believes the lies the media like CNN, NBC, CBS, MSNBC have been spreading for months. Listen for yourself.
We spend $80 billion a year locking people up in this country. We wouldn't have to do that if people had jobs and if people had education. And we've got to transform our national priorities, invest in our kids, invest in housing, rather than more and more jails.
The fact of the matter is that America is the wealthiest country in the history of the world. But anyone who took the walk that we took around this neighborhood would not think you're in a wealthy nation. You would think that you were in a third world country. We do not need to give more tax breaks to millionaires and billionaires. We need to start investing in communities all over this country today that are hurting, that are often forgotten about. This is the wealthiest country in the history of the world. We can create a society in which all of our people have a decent standard of living, not a society in which almost all new income and wealth goes to the top 1%. That's what I'm dedicated to changing. All right, what about ISIS, guys? How often are these people talking about the issues that we talked about today? Of course I'll talk about ISIS. But today what we're talking about is a community in which half of the people don't have jobs. We're talking about a community in which there are hundreds of buildings that are uninhabitable. We're talking about a community where kids are unable to go to schools that are decent. You want to ask me about ISIS? We will talk about ISIS. But what I said, and let me repeat, and you can agree with me or not, what I have said is that obviously ISIS and terrorism are a huge national issue that we've got to address. But so is poverty, so is unemployment, so is education, so is health care, so is the need to protect working families. And I will continue to talk about those issues. Thank you very much.
Right, but now what he's done, he's flip-flopped on those issues. That, folks, it's called hypocrisy. And once again, I want to thank Ben Ferguson for pointing this out. And look, let's call it what it is. Baltimore is, no better today than it was when Elijah Cummings took over that district. It's the nightmare in most of it. Not everywhere. Some of it is pretty nice. There's nice areas everywhere, right? There's a lot of parts in this country which need fixing. But more and more, if you do your own homework, if you go out and you actually see the country, well, there's poverty in a lot of areas. There's usually really disgusting third world country type of areas where Democrats hold seats in Congress and where they're supposed to be, taken care of. San Francisco, Nancy Pelosi, hello. Look what's going on there in some of those areas. Los Angeles. I lived in LA for a long time. I remember the 80s when I was a kid and I lived out there. Yeah, they had poverty, but it's gotten so much worse in the last 20 years. Now, this is more than just a border crisis. This is a crisis that is spreading nationwide. And this is not a race issue. Trump never made this about race. Elijah Cummings has made this about race. Victor Blackwell has made this about race. Bernie Sanders made this about race. Trump really tweeted what Bernie Sanders said in 2015. He regurgitated the same thing, but now he's a racist. Where is the liberal tears coming down on Bernie Sanders? I don't see any aggressive, negative attacks on him, calling him a racist. You know, and it's funny because he has no chance of winning at any kind of presidential election. Let's be honest. Right now, if you just watch the debates, my goodness, they really have absolutely nobody on the left. And it's a party that I was a part of for a very long time. I was a Democrat. I voted, for the Democratic President Obama. I voted against Bush. And I regret voting for Obama. I mean, he was a disaster for this country. But like everybody else, I fell for the smile. He spoke a lot of things that later on he flip-flopped on. And that's one of the things that made me leave the party. Because I started to become woke, as they're saying now on the left. You gotta be woke, right? Well, I became very woke, folks. And I started seeing the hypocrisy for myself. And as of 2016, I no longer was a Democrat. I voted for Trump because Trump came in and said a lot of things that other folks on the left had said, but they never did anything. Once he got into office, everything they ran on, out the window. All campaign promises, gone. And we're going even far back to when Bill Clinton was president. I couldn't vote back then, but I supported Clinton because, again, I was in my head thinking, well, at least there'll be less wars. And these guys seem to care about us minorities, because I am a minority. I'm Cuban. But see, what happened was I used to watch a lot of TVs. A lot of TV back in the 90s was a very liberal leftist. You had Bill, playing that saxophone on the Arsenio Hall show. Remember that? Coming out saying, yeah, if I would have just been asked now, I would have just said I smoked marijuana. Back then, of course, she was caught lying, saying, I took a puff, but I never inhaled. No, sir, I never inhaled. Now, of course, we all know he's inhaled more than just a puff. Never admit to it, though, because Billy's a liar. We've all known that for years, and he got impeached. And then did nothing. Right? So what's this outcry about impeaching Trump? I mean, I don't get it. They tried, they failed. Now they want to try to impeach him again. For what? He's done nothing wrong. In fact, we're going to hit a quick commercial break in a few minutes. Before we do that, let's take a listen at Michelle Obama talking about Hillary Clinton. Okay? Now, for a lot of liberals, they hate Trump because he beat Hillary. He beat her even though she tried really hard to rig the election. So much so that they, they did a phony Steele dossier, and the Russians were somehow involved. Listen, let me tell you something. It's looking more and more like, there was probably some Russian collusion going on, but it wasn't with Trump or his people, folks. Nope. It was with Hillary and the Obamas. And I think the reason why they keep trying to impeach 45 is because they're terrified that the shit is about to hit the fan. Now, if you think I'm joking, if you think I'm being honest about this, nobody likes, flip-floppers. Let's listen to what Michelle and Barack Obama thought about Hillary when they ran against her. And then, of course, Obama beats her, does absolutely nothing for the country, but it's just a total disaster. Goes to Cuba, does nothing in Cuba at all. Nothing positive, anyway. I saw some skits that even came out after he left Cuba, and they were making fun of him. They made fun of the president after he left the country. Do you think they're making fun of the president over in Korea after he stepped over the line with Kim Jong-un? Anybody thinks that the news outlets over there are actually making fun of Trump? Probably not, right? I mean, this is, by the way, that was an incredible moment because no president has ever crossed that line. Nobody had the cojones, the testicular fortitude. Nope. Nobody had them to cross that line.
Nope.
But Donald Trump did. So check out Michelle Obama and the ex-president, Barack Hussein Obama, Mr. Muslim trainee. That's right. I don't give a shit. He's Muslim. It is what it is. He lied to the entire country. I don't even believe the motherfucker was actually born in America. The birth certificate, I don't believe it. And I'm saying it right now. This is inside the Jackal's head. Check this out. I kid you not. This is real audio.
Michelle Obama hates Hillary Clinton and doesn't think she's fit to run the White House. Have a listen to this clip of what Michelle Obama really thinks about Hillary Clinton. The quality's not that great, but it's one of the only copies that's available online. It's Michelle Obama back in 2008. Listen to this.
One of the things, the important aspects of this race is role modeling what good families should look like. And my view is that if you can't run your own house, you certainly can't run the White House. Can't do it.
I would add that if you're also under multiple investigations by the FBI, you also can't run the White House. If we do an advanced search of Michelle Obama's tweets, we'll find that she has literally only mentioned Hillary Clinton one time in the last 8 years. Once. In this tweet from the FLOTUS account, which stands for First Lady of the United States, an account that is passed from First Lady to First Lady, we find literally one tweet mentioning Hillary Clinton. If we do a detailed search of Michelle Obama's personal Twitter account, @MichelleObama, we find that there are literally 0 tweets about Hillary Clinton, not a single one, ever. Let's take a look at what Barack Obama thinks about Hillary before the Clinton crime family manipulated the DNC and the mainstream media to get her into the position where she is right now. Here's Obama when he was running against Hillary back in 2008.
You know, come on. When Hillary Clinton says I'm out of touch, I just have to remind people of the track record.
Oh, her track record.
Right.
Her 30-year track record of failure, disaster, FBI investigation.
The same person who has taken more money from lobbyists.
Hear that again.
This is the same person who has taken more money from lobbyists than any other candidate, Democratic or Republican. Taking more money from drug company lobbyists and insurance company lobbyists.
Drug traffickers.
And she's saying, I'm out of touch. Who do you think is out of touch?
Lock her up.
This is the same person
Lock her up.
Who took money from financial folks on Wall Street and then voted for a bankruptcy bill that makes it harder for folks right here in Pennsylvania to get a fair shake.
Well, thankfully, because of WikiLeaks, we've been able to get transcripts of her secret speeches to the Wall Street banks, where she admits one of her plans is to open the borders and admits that she has a public stance on policy and a private stance as well that are completely 180 degrees at odds with each other. Please tell us more about the real Hillary Clinton, Barack.
Who do you think is out of touch? This is the same person who spent a decade with her husband campaigning for NAFTA.
Oh, here we go.
And now goes around saying how she was opposed to NAFTA. This is the same person who says she's voting for the Colombia trade deal. Turns out that her top advisor, her top strategist, was working for the Colombian government to get the bill passed.
Shocker.
Does that sound like she's in touch with you?
Great audio piece for anybody who's closely paying attention to what's going on. If you really believe that socialism and the movement that's coming out of Congress on the left is the way this country ought to go, you folks need a lobotomy. Okay? That is what you just heard, what the Obamas thought about Hillary Clinton. The person who Trump won using similar strategies as Obama and Michelle. But why wasn't, where's the outrage against the Obamas? Why is it that when he beats Hillary, everybody loves the Obamas, right? Hillary eventually becomes chums and friendly with, Barack, supposedly. Michelle, as you heard there, not a word, doesn't talk about her on Twitter, doesn't mention her at all. But of course, Barack becomes all of a sudden very chummy with her as Hillary grows in incredible wealth with the Clinton Foundation and all kinds of stuff that she was doing after losing the election. So when she went for her own campaign, Trump beats her using, again, similar language as the one used to beat her when she ran against Obama. But now, all of a sudden, Donald Trump is a racist, misogynist, he's evil. All of a sudden, we gotta impeach 45, says Al Green and Elijah Cummings. We gotta impeach him. We gotta impeach 45, says Maxine Waters. I kid you not, she sounds like that. We gotta impeach 45. I'm crazy, Maxine Waters. You gotta listen to her on YouTube. It's really hilarious to see the crazy woman just go nutty. I mean, these are characters. They're caricatures of human beings. They cannot be real people. I tell you, they just can't. Now we're going to go to a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to have some audio from the Mueller report. That's right, the Mueller report was loaded with fascinating clips. And at the end of the day, the Democrats looked like complete jackasses, which explains, the logo of the Democrat is a jackass. I mean, this all makes so much sense now. We'll be right back. Keep listening. This is Inside the Jackal's Head.
TalkStream Live Mobile Talk Radio. Imagine having the freedom to take live talk radio with you anywhere you go. Listen to live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. TalkStream Live.
Have you heard Mac Maloney lately?
In your military career, did you ever see anything that came close to an unusual UFO sighting or...
No.
Holy that was the 10 seconds of no. What are you?
That was so convincing.
Yeah. What are you trying to say there?
Well, UFO is an innocuous term.
That's the worst fucking denial I've ever heard.
Unidentified flying object.
Mac Maloney's Military X-Files, Friday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern on the Public Streaming Radio Network.
Unidentified flying object.
Look, up in the sky.
It's a bird.
It's a plane. No, it's SupermanHomepage.com, the #1 Superman fan site in the world. SupermanHomepage.com, covering the world of Superman from the 1930s to today. News, reviews, rumors, and reports. SupermanHomepage.com for all your Superman comics, TV shows, movies, cartoons, radio shows, and more. Everything you ever wanted to know about the Man of Steel and more. SupermanHomepage.com.
The George Rodriguez Show.
Who?
I said the George Rodriguez Show. You don't know George Rodriguez?
Wasn't he the guy that filled in for Neil Rogers?
Yes. That George Rodriguez.
What's he like?
Oh, he's a short little Cuban feller. Kind of funny looking.
Well, when's he on?
12 to 3, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on SoFloRadio.com and SoFloRadio.net. The George Rodriguez Show is much more than adequate.
That's Russian singer Vitals with The Seventh Element. I literally have no idea what that man is saying. We gotta check out the video. It's called Clucking, what he does. I don't know, man. I have no idea, but we're gonna get into some audio clips right now. And, man, let me tell you something. It'd be really interesting if everybody just got on the same page and we figured out a way to, like, coexist without everybody yelling racist anytime somebody tweets something, or, you know, something that's happening now with this whole Me Too movement where everybody's like, oh, well, this guy, back like 25 years ago hugged me in a very inappropriate way, and so I just want to say he's a scumbag, which is literally like one of the women that's come forward, and I got kind of into this with somebody on Facebook, because they posted something about Trump. And they posted a bunch of women that have come forward saying he sexually harassed them. And that was literally one of the charges. He hugged me in a very inappropriate way. Back in the 80s and 90s, that was just called a hug. Now it's like assault and battery. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, has the folks lost their damn minds? Are people, am I the last sane human being? I don't think I am. I think Jeremiah Greer coming up here in about 20 minutes is a pretty sane person, and I want to get his 2 cents. Maybe his third will be a free one and we won't get taxed on it, but I definitely want to get his input on what he thinks of what's happening in the world today, because I haven't really had a chance to really, catch up with him in a long time, and he is, again, an awesome human being, and I respect everybody's point of view, and that's what, this show's all about. I want to, really understand where everybody's coming from, but my goodness, every time I see the things I see on the news, and look, I watch every news outlet. I try to make some time before this show to catch up and see what's going on, right? I also enjoy social media. I enjoy Facebook. Tonight, I had a crazy thing happen to me on Facebook. It was bizarre. And I don't know the gentleman's name, but it was in a post by one of my friends on Facebook, which I met him through a Miami Marlins chat. And he's a great dude. The name slips. I apologize. He goes by the handle Marlins Nation on Facebook. And he put up a post about transgender people, okay, and I replied to it because me and him have we have a really cool thing where, we agree a lot about stuff that's happening, and this is complete hypocrisy. Facebook actually said that my comments were against the community standards, and they said, if you request a review, we'll have someone take a look at the comment. Or take another look at the comment. I'm going to try to get this on the website. Again, thejackalshead.com. It's going to be reworked. but the news and all the stuff that we're going over will be on there eventually. So, and this is something that is funny because I started off my comment, and it wasn't Marlins Nation who reported me. It was somebody else who was like, I'm offended. Now, if you look at it in context, the person that they were posting about is a very manly-looking transgender person, and I found it amusing. Now, I'm kind of a wise guy. I do post funny stuff on Facebook all the time, and I didn't know the community standards also meant not dealing with facts. Okay? And I posted, and this was my comment. Funny, and it starts off with the word funny. Okay, so I'm quoting myself, which got me in trouble on Facebook. Funny thing is, all these drag queens are socialists. This is true. For the most part, they're leftists. And for the most part, like the Muslims and those degenerates in the Middle East who cut people's heads off for just being gay. Ironic. In that religion, that these trannies or transgenders would be beheaded. In that religion, and I'm end quoting right there, and within the religion of the Muslims, this is not me making it up, they behead gay people, transgender people, for simply being gay. But in this country, we understand most Muslims, if not all, are communists or socialists, and transgender, for the most part, are socialists. So they've united in a weird way, right? And I'm going to keep quoting now. Yet they take the side of those who want to cut their heads off here in America. Anyone else see how effing stupid, fucking stupid is what I said, they all are from just that. Now first, the whole transgender BS is media created, and I personally think it's a mental disorder to begin with, but hey, to each their own. I guess, but damn, this one here is one butch looking tranny. And then I put haha. Now, if you're offended, I'm sorry, I don't care. That's the way I feel. That's called my opinion. If you look at the picture of the person in question, you would say that is a butch-looking tranny as well, because, my goodness, that is a butch-looking tranny. But for some reason, Facebook felt that, well, that's inappropriate. They've done nothing about the actual post, and everybody else has posted in there, but I speak some facts about how these people are beheaded. Now, I don't care if they're gay, straight, transgender. I have nothing against anybody living the way they want to live. If you're a dude and you want to dress like a woman and you want to cut your dick off, do it. It's your life. I don't care. If you're a chick and you want to slap on, some meat from your ass and call it a penis, do whatever makes you feel good, girl. Or dude, I don't care. But, if we're, not going to censor everything, every thought, it's pathetic. Facebook, and I don't know if somebody actually reported that or it was just Facebook itself, but my goodness, have we gotten to that point? And I've seen some really much more outlandish stuff on Facebook, by the way. Crazier stuff said, really, really racist, bad stuff. Nobody gets anything. Why? Because they're saying it's a white guy doing something. Crazy double standard. But when I make a funny, well, they gotta bring the hammer down on me. Gotta make an example. Well, I don't care. Screw Facebook. If they don't like it, Well, you know what?
Nonsense, goofy pants!
I don't care. It's all, mental manipulation, folks. They want to control your thoughts. They want to control your movements. They want to tell you what to say, what to do. Even on social media. If it wasn't for the fact that you need social media for these kind of shows, I would probably not even be on social media, to be honest with you. But you can't escape, the need to be on Facebook, Twitter, and all these other places just to get the word out. So, you need to be on these platforms, but honestly, it's a joke sometimes. Complete joke. And, no matter what, if they have a problem with it, too bad. Now, I got more audio that I want to play, but shout outs to Marlins Nation again, before I play the audio. And, again, cool dude. If you guys look him up on Facebook, follow his, Facebook, posts. Very funny stuff. I'll get his name out there when I have a chance. If he ever wants to call in, he's welcome to call in and talk, about whatever he wants to talk about. Cause again, he's a very woke, bright individual. And, it's one of those things where, he's on point politically and, about sports too. Hey, I love sports. We're going to get into that as the show continues on in the future. And, I got a lot of stuff that I want to talk about when it comes to sports, and we're going to do stuff on wrestling and Major League Baseball, NBA, maybe some NFL stuff in the future. But tonight, again, the second hour belongs to Jeremiah Greer. We're going to talk to him about what he's been up to in about 10 minutes. But I do want to get to an audio clip from the Mueller report that I found just absolutely fascinating. This is Jim Jordan, demanding answers from Robert Mueller. Pay close attention to this. The Robert Mueller investigation is a complete sham. Everybody, check this audio out. Fascinating.
The gentleman from Ohio. Director, the FBI interviewed Joseph Mifsud on February 10th, 2017. In that interview, Mr. Mifsud lied. You point this out on page 193, volume 1. Mifsud denied. Mifsud also falsely stated. In addition, Mifsud omitted. 3 times he lied to the FBI, yet you didn't charge him with the crime.
Excuse me, did you say I'm sorry, did you say 193?
Volume 1, 193. He lied 3 times, you pointed out in the report. Why didn't you charge him with the crime?
I can't get into internal deliberations with regard who would or would not be.
Charge a lot of other people for making false statements. Let's remember this. In 2016, the FBI did something they probably haven't done before. They spied on 2 American citizens associated with a presidential campaign, George Papadopoulos and Carter Page. With Carter Page, they went to the FISA court. They used the now famous dossier as part of the reason they were able to get the warrant and spy on Carter Page for a better part of a year. With Mr. Papadopoulos, they didn't go to the court. They used human sources. All kinds of, from about the moment Papadopoulos joins the Trump campaign, you got all these people all around the world starting to swirl around him. Names like Halper, Downer, Mifsud, Thompson, meeting in Rome, London, all kinds of places. The FBI even sent a lady posing as somebody else, went by the name Azra Turk, even dispatched her to London to spy on Mr. Papadopoulos. In one of these meetings, Mr. Papadopoulos is talking to a foreign diplomat, and he tells the diplomat, Russians have dirt on Clinton. That diplomat then contacts the FBI, and the FBI opens an investigation based on that fact. You point this out on page 1 of the report. July 31st, 2016, they open the investigation based on that piece of information. Diplomat tells Papadopoulos, Papadopoulos tells a diplomat, Russians have dirt on Clinton. Diplomat tells the FBI. What I'm wondering is, who told Papadopoulos? How'd he find out?
I can't get into the evidence you find.
Yes, you can, because you wrote about it. You gave us the answer. Page 192 of the report, you tell us who told him. Joseph Mifsud. Joseph Mifsid's a guy who told Papadopoulos, the mysterious professor who lives in Rome and London, teaches in 2 different universities. This is the guy who told Papadopoulos. He's the guy who starts it all. And when the FBI interviews him, he lies 3 times, and yet you don't charge him with a crime. You charge Rick Gates for false statements. You charge Paul Manafort for false statements. You charge Michael Cohen with false statements. You charge Michael Flynn, a 3-star general, with false statements. But the guy who puts the country through this whole saga, starts it all for 3 years we've lived this now, he lies, and you guys don't charge him. And I'm curious as to why.
Well, I can't get into it, and it's obvious, I think, that we can't get into charging decisions.
When the FBI interviewed him in February, FBI interviews him in February, when the special counsel's office interviewed Mifsud, did he lie to you guys too?
Can't get into that.
Did you interview Mifsud?
Can't get into that.
Is Mifsud Western intelligence or Russian intelligence?
Can't get into that.
A lot of things you can't get into. What's interesting, you can charge 13 Russians no one's ever heard of, no one's ever seen, no one's ever going to hear of them, no one's ever going to see them. You can charge them. You can charge all kinds of people who are around the president with false statements. But the guy who launches the guy who puts this whole story in motion, you can't charge him. I think that's amazing.
I'm not certain I agree with your characterizations.
Well, I'm reading from your report. Mifsud told Papadopoulos. Papadopoulos tells the diplomat tells the FBI opens the investigation July 31st, 2016, and here we are 3 years later, July of 2019, the country's been put through this, and the central figure who launches it all lies to us, and you guys don't hunt him down and interview him again, and you don't charge him with a crime. Now here's the good news. The president was falsely accused of conspiracy. The FBI does a 10-month investigation. James Comey, when we deposed him a year ago, told us at that point they had nothing. You do a 22-month investigation. At the end of that 22 months, you find no conspiracy. And what's the Democrats want to do? They want to keep investigating. They want to keep going. Maybe a better course of action
is the Democrats get off their ass and clean up places like Baltimore, California, pass bills like to support the border and support actually the people that are being picked up because, there is an overflow on the borders, and that's because a lot of people were coming in, right? So the detention centers, which have needed money for years, maybe I just burped live on air. Maybe these Democrats who are bleeding racist, maybe, that was a good tasting one too, maybe what they should do is get off their ass and fix some of the problems and stop with this nonsense. But check this out. It really sounds like Mueller wasn't even involved in writing this report, right? So this is a question that was asked. Who the hell wrote this thing?
Devin Nunes is the ranking member of the House Intel Committee. He's a member of the House Ways and Means Committee, and he has been among the few congressmen who have been on this program for the last 2.5 years telling the truth about what has taken place. Congressman, it's good to have you on the program. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you, Maria. Great to be with you.
Your reaction from the Mueller testimony.
Well, first of all, it's clear that Mueller didn't write the report. And so who wrote the report? We think there were 5 or 6 lawyers involved. We're still trying to get to the bottom of that. I would say, one of the main takeaways is that we still don't have any Russians, right? We don't know who the Russians were that supposedly, colluded with the Trump campaign. Why? Because there were none. And that's what we said 2.5 years ago. There is evidence that the Democrats colluded with the Russians. We tried to get to the bottom of that. But clearly Mueller and his team of lawyers and 40 investigators and $40 million didn't bother to look for those Russians. They were only looking for the Russians that were mysterious because they don't exist and they never found them.
You focused on Joseph Mifsud in some of your questions. Now, we had George Papadopoulos on this program earlier in the year, and he basically broke the news on this show about Mifsud and about the fact that he was the first person to tell him that Russia had Hillary Clinton's emails. Also, he broke the news on this program earlier this year that another individual dropped $10,000 on his lap, another situation that you mentioned in your questioning. Why was it so important for you to mention people like Mifsud and Shragi and others?
Well, remember, Mifsud is at the heart of this investigation. Mifsud is the one who supposedly knows about Clinton's emails, that the Russians have Clinton emails. He supposedly said this to Papadopoulos, something about emails. This is the excuse, and well, actually, it's not the excuse. It is the reason why the documented reason why they opened the investigation on July 31st, 2016. Now, what I mentioned in my testimony and in my questioning, it's clear that the FBI did not open the investigation on July 31st. That's the paperwork. What we're trying to figure out is when did the FBI really start to run the investigation? What types of processes did they use? What was the predicate? Because, look, it really appears like they were spying on the Trump campaign. If I may start again.
And now I beg you to take back the space that I made you give.
Now that's not a Russian, that's my good friend Jesse Singer with One That Makes the Difference. I didn't know he was such a good singer. You know, sometimes you have friends for a long time and then you're like, wait, you could do what? You could sing? No. And then he drops like 5 tracks and they're like, that's cool. Whoa, that's really good. Well, that's excellent. And then one had me shedding a tear, and I was like, Jesse, why didn't you tell me about this before? But check him out on SoundCloud and on YouTube. I believe that's where you find him. Look up Jesse Singer, the One That Makes a Difference. Good track. Now, folks, I have the pleasure of bringing on live here on PSN Radio on Inside the Jackal's Head, the one and the only, somebody who is responsible once again for me, you know, not so much getting into podcasting, but was the first person on any platform outside of Blog Talk Radio who said, hey, you know, you? And I said, me? And he said, yeah, you. Why don't you try your luck at something outside of this very shitty platform? And he actually showed me the ropes, was the person responsible for me kind of branching out. If not, you would still hear in the beginning of this show, Blog Talk Radio. But you don't hear that anymore because, you know, we don't do that kind of nonsense anymore on our cell phones, which, by the way, that's how I used to do the show, on my cell phone. We've definitely upgraded since then. I'll tell you that much. But welcome back to Inside the Jackal's Head. Once again, Mr. Jeremiah Greer. I wouldn't just call you Dr. Greer at this point.
Dr. Greer. I don't know if I get that far.
Thank you so much for making time with me. I know you're a family man. I know you're a busy dude, man, but I love talking to you. And since I got back on the show, and we always somehow, one way or the other over the years, bump into each other online. And I immediately said, I have to bring on Jeremiah. Because, again, if it wasn't for you, man, I would not be doing this little shindig right here. So, if anybody has any hate mail, don't send it to this man. But
I'm sure there's some out there that hate me, but no, I mean, I appreciate you having me on. It's been, God, I can't even tell you last time I either hosted a show or was on a show.
And by the way, the World Wide Web, the podcasting community, anywhere that people listen to, stuff that creeps them out of the night, misses you. I mean, your show was phenomenal.
That is funny.
It's not. It's the truth, man.
Okay.
Look, let me tell you something real quick. You don't understand. I have a lot of friends that I still deal with from back when we first met years and years ago. And every once in a while, you do come up. I'm not even kidding. They're like, hey, whatever happened to Jeremiah Greer? And some people just say the Greer guy because, they can't remember the first name or Jeremiah. But they always remember because I mentioned you over the years as, the culprit for me being on podcasting, and not sounding like 12 decibels lower than I do now, and on really shitty audio. Thanks to you, sir, we're here today. And I do get that question. So tell the audience, what you've been up to, because it's a mystery. You're a lovely man, and we need you on the air.
Well, let me start off by, it is funny that you say that because, I guess it's been 8 to 10 years since I've done the show. So it hasn't been on any network, anything like that. I still, to this day, get emails and people ask me, when's the next episode? I'm like, well, it hasn't aired in like 8 years. There's not a next episode. And people just reconnect and like, oh, I just found your show. It's a good show. I really enjoyed it. Where can I find more? And I'm like, you just got to dig around because there's nowhere that it's really archived. So it's hilarious. But I really enjoyed the show. But nowadays, like I said, I'm a family man, which I guess the last time I was on the air, I had 4 kids at home. Now I just have 1 at home. One's still in school. The other
so you must be feeling a lot better nowadays.
Yeah,
they're all branching out on their own. Woof! It's almost party time.
But no, I've got I've been running a couple businesses. I got my own kind of businesses going, and just trying to survive like everybody else. It's a tough world out there, and just had to lock it down and do what I can to survive.
You're not kidding, and we're living in a strange world, man. I remember when we met years ago, folks, it's been a decade. I'm not even kidding. It's about a decade now.
God, no kidding.
And I remember the climate, the way it was back then, to the way it is now. I'm talking about the social climate, the way people, act towards each other, the way things are. You're in, I don't want to give too much away because I don't want stalkers going after you, but you're in a certain area, where our president was recently, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there was a huge rally, people loved it, and a lot of folks went out and saw him, and, from what I saw, it was very positive. Am I wrong to say that, or am I right?
I would say that you're right, that a lot of people seen it as a positive thing. In North Carolina, there are a lot of people for Trump. Pretty much everywhere you go, you're going to see, Trump 2020 or even still the old stickers, Trump 2016. So a lot of people definitely, I guess their thoughts resonate with what he puts out there.
Now, I know you were listening to earlier in the show, and we're going to get to, I'm sure, a little bit of politics, but the reason I bring that up is because you're living in a central place where, he was at recently, and, back, 10 years ago to what, we're at right now, you've seen this change, and you've been off the air. You've seen the way the world is. It's become so crazy over the last 10 years. But the funny thing is, we were talking about this earlier, it feels like it's gone by so quick. It's almost like somebody just snapped their fingers, decade gone.
That is no joke, man. Time just seems to get faster and faster. And obviously you can dip back into the shadows and the dark days where we probably talked about the, time being relevant. But, it really has. And it's just so crazy how things are happening now. And, I think a lot of it is social media. Because when you go back 10 years when, I got into radio, which was before, because I had the show. I think I did the show 5-6 years before I took it off. So, really looking at about 15 years ago. And,
wow.
Social media and the internet was around, but it wasn't as utilized as it is today. Today you can't hide from anything. My God, if I'd had social media whenever I was young, I'd probably be locked up 10 times over, and have all kinds of haters. But, now everything you do is going to pop up somewhere. Somebody's got a camera on, somebody's taking pictures, somebody's tagging this, somebody's hashtagging that. And you just can't, and I won't say not hide from it, but everything's out in the open, which unfortunately leaves it up for interpretations. And that's where we get the issues.
Exactly. And it's funny because you said something very funny there, which is, if you were listening earlier, look at Bernie Sanders, for an example. Look at his comments about Baltimore from 2015 to now. Everything stays on the web somewhere. You got to be very careful these days what you say, Jeremiah, because it's permanently out there. Somebody somewhere is gonna get you. That's why I personally don't care anymore. I've gotten to the point in my life where if I say something naughty or dumb, I said it. I man up. I don't care. If somebody gets offended,
that's right.
It's life,
Just own up to it.
Yeah. Look, somebody was, telling me that, Trump is a misogynist because some girl 25 years ago said he hugged her inappropriately, and now she's saying 25 years later she felt kind of awkward.
Right. Yeah. See, I mean, and that's the thing is it. Unfortunately, with the way it stays out there, nothing's taken into consideration. Well, maybe they're not that same person anymore. So now the person you were at 17 years old is apparently the same person you are at 34, 40, 50 years old, even up to 70 years old. And we all know that's not the truth. We all change every single day, and especially if you take a 10-year span, somebody's life, they are not the same person from that day to 10 years ahead. So it's kind of unfair to everybody in society that, we are continued to be judged by what's still recorded since the beginning of the internet.
What gets me is this notion now that we get, and I'm sure you see it, being that you're off, the podcasting, you're just a family man, like you said, running, businesses. But I find it funny that nowadays, and this is just, taking a look at the entire spectrum of what we're doing here as a society, we've gotten away from you're innocent to proven guilty to you're guilty and there's no way to prove you're innocent.
That is very true, and I can agree with you more that you are guilty until proven innocent in today's world. And I mean, and it's so funny because have you ever watched the show on Fox, The Orville? Seth MacFarlane
my goodness, show? That's one of my favorite. I'm not even kidding. I absolutely adore that show. I mean, I'm a Trekkie. I'm a Star Wars fan. But that show is brilliant, and it is.
It's one of his best shows. If not, I mean, come on, Family Guy, American Dad. Those are great shows. But this show, to me, it's not your typical Seth MacFarlane show because it's not over the top comedy. It's not poking fun at people. It's a deep look into society and the structures of society.
Yep.
And there's an episode, and it really, to me, was like, oh my God, I think we might just be heading there. They visited a planet that had an absolute democracy. And this absolute democracy was completely based on if you liked or disliked something that was posted. And then you were judged completely based on that. Mm-hmm. And you had to do an apology. And if the apology wasn't approved by the entire planet with likes or dislikes, then you went through the punishment. And it was like, that is practically what we're going through now. It's almost like, yes, we are almost to an absolute democracy based on just what somebody posts.
That's exactly right. That one in Chalusha.
That's such a great show. Such a great show.
It's funny because there's so many funny sound clips you can get out of that show. So many little quick sound bites, but the writing, like you said, they socially they are capturing in this Trekkie world what the climate is today. And Seth, everything you might think about him. The man knows way too many show tunes for a straight guy, first of all. So there might be something there.
He does, but he is a genius in my opinion.
But he is
incredibly brilliant.
The writing on that show is very underrated. They've won Emmys, I believe. Haven't they? If not, they should.
I'm sure he's won. So I don't know if the Orville has won any, but I mean, very possibly. He pretty much collects them. I mean, he's just like I said, he's a brilliant writer and really poking at or digging into, again, that social structure and what does make up society. He does a great, even on his other shows. I mean, the jokes that he makes, he doesn't leave anything off the table, and it's one reason why the show continues. It's funny, we talk about all this that everybody gets offended at nowadays, but nobody touches American Dad or, Family Guy like they do other things, because everything's on the table. And that's kind of the point. I think his point is, well, if you're going to poke fun at one thing, poke fun at all, or just forget about it all, because in the end, it's not that relevant to your own life. And it's just, man, he is so good at it. And the Orville, I just think it takes it to another step, because he doesn't have not as much comedy built into it. The references aren't there as much, and the crude humor is not there. And it's just a well-written, just show about these people trying to get along, traveling through space. Which is what the Earth is.
Yeah. It's funny because it reminds me of like watching Voyager in the 90s, but like a comedy version of Voyager.
It does.
And Seth, he'll make a hell of a Janeway. Now, have you seen this movie, 1,000 Ways or 100 Ways to Die in the West? Maybe 100 or 1,000, can't remember.
Oh, yeah. I think it's 1,000, isn't it? 1,000 Ways to Die, or 1,000,000 Ways to Die, something like that. But yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, I mean, the guy constantly busts out with really, really funny stuff. And one thing I love, by the way, I don't know if you follow this much, but Disney bought Fox TV and film. They didn't buy Fox News. Fox News is going to stay his own thing, but Disney now owns the rights to Orville. So Disney is going to be in charge of that show going forward. I think they renewed it. You can't cancel that show. I mean, it's just too popular right now. And they've renewed it for another season or two. I don't know how long they're going to keep it. But it's funny because there is a lot of politics on that show. And I wonder, are they going to start like censoring some of the stuff that he does with that in Family Guy? I really hope not. Because Disney is known to kind of do that when they push the envelope. I mean, look what they did on ABC with Tim Allen. All the guy did say was, I voted for Trump and I'll do it again. And he had the number 2 rated show on TV. Gone. And funny enough, he's on Fox now, which, it's owned by Disney. Same.
Now, I hope they don't mess with it. I mean, you never know. I mean, it's the sad part, but I mean, it would just be a shame to you, because again, there's something about the way he writes that, I mean, it really resonates with a lot of people. And there are a lot of people who are Seth MacFarlane fans who are on, they're from all spectrums of the political world. I mean, whatever. They're all over the place, and for good reason. He his jokes make you think too. That's the good part about it. It's not that he's just poking fun. It makes you think. It makes you sit back and be like, you know what? There is a point to that.
Yeah. No, I love, like, in some of the episodes, it's not just comedy. I mean, he gets into, like, some deep stuff, like transgenderism. They, of course, have the character Brodus and his race, where even if you're born a female, they gotta make you a male. And it's...
Right.
There's that one episode, man, I literally was crying so hard from laughing so hard. The episode where Brodus has a porn addiction, and he's in the jail cell. And the guy comes in and he's like, if you want out, you have to do that one thing. And he's like, I'm not doing that one thing. And he goes, well then, I will whip you or something. And he's like, wait a second, I will do that one thing and more. I tell you,
they put him through a lot of stuff. Brodus is like one of the most just curious characters on that show. I mean, you think he grew the mustache when he got addicted to cigarettes. I mean, the things that he has been through in that show is hilarious. I mean, because to me now, because I'm a curious individual, it's one of the reasons why I did the show I did, and so I can relate to like, oh, what is that like?
Oh, I love that show. By the way, Scott Grimes, I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's, one of the main characters in the show. Scott Grimes is iconic to the world of horror. Do you remember the movies Critters? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
Yeah.
All right. He played the kid in Critters 1 and 2. He's Gordon Malloway on the Orville, one of the main guys who drives the ship with the beard.
Yeah.
That's him from Critters. Now he's on the Orville.
That's right. I was trying to remember where I hadn't recognized him, but he's been in a lot of stuff. He's a pretty good actor. I like him.
It's funny because he was also a voice on some episodes on Family Guy, and he's been on NCIS, and he's worked over the years. But it's funny, when I first started watching the show, the first few episodes I didn't recognize him at first, and I was like, he looks familiar, but I can't place that face. And then it just hit me, and I was like, wait a second, because I used to be a big fan of the Critters movies as a kid. I loved horror, by the way, and I grew up watching horror movies, and I always loved slasher movies. Like, the first horror movie I ever saw in theaters was Nightmare on Elm Street. Kid you not.
Oh my God, that's what I was about to tell you. What the first one that stuck out in my mind, that really captured my mind, that was it, Nightmare on Elm Street. I think I was in 6th grade.
Yep.
Might have been 5th grade. I went to a Halloween party, and there was a costume contest, and that's what I dressed up as, was Freddy Krueger. I had butter knives for my claws. I made a glove and put butter knives on it, and that was my claw. Oh my gosh! I mean, it scared me to death, but at the same time, I was a fan.
Man, I spent a decade dressing up like Freddy Krueger. Are you kidding me? And I was a weird child, man. Let me tell you, I would tell my dad, because every time, in the 80s, we got a lot of Freddy movies. We had a lot of Jason movies, and I used to always tell my dad every weekend, I don't want any toys. I have a lot of Star Wars stuff. I just want to go to the movies. And my dad, being a cheap bastard that he was in the 80s, would always go to the dollar theater. It was to get the movies that, had already left the mainstream theaters. They were just playing in the dollar theater. And they would always have a run of the Freddy movies. So as a kid, my dad was like, well, he's semi-normal. Maybe this will fuck him up a little bit more, and, maybe he'll go crazy and I'll get some money from the government. I don't know. So he would take me to see the horror movies. I have no idea why he would do this to a child. Nowadays he'll be locked up. Back then he was the coolest dad ever. And he would take me I saw Nightmare on Elm Street 1. Didn't see 2. Glad about that, because it's kind of a weird one in the entire saga of Freddy. But we saw 1, 3, 4, skipped 5, saw 6, and my dad refused to watch I believe it was Wes Craven's New Nightmare. He was like, I've had enough of Freddy. That's it. I'm done with Freddy. And then he moved on to Saw or whatever. Horror movie. He's a big horror fan. But what I'm saying is, it's funny, from the 80s to 90s to now, I've been a big fan of horror movies. And your show, was very paranormal heavy. And it was, of course, Shadows in the Dark. Right? And, what drove you to that aspect of doing what you did back in the show?
Man, well, okay, now to what really drove me to, I guess, look into the paranormal, it starts back to when I was really young, and it had to do with, I guess, releasing limitations, or understanding that there were things out there that were beyond what we could really even think about. Well, no, I won't say that, but were just surprising. And I was 10 years old, and we went out west on a summer vacation, and like I said, I wouldn't call it paranormal, but again, the show was very broad in that sense of paranormal and what it covered, and this is the reason. We went on a family vacation out to Yellowstone National Park, and this was, like I said, I was probably 10, so this is mid-80s, right around in there. So we get to Yellowstone. Well, on the way there, we had stopped and we picked up, hit one of those little tourist trap stands and, had a lot of Native American stuff. And me and my brother got some Native American rain dance bells, and, I thought that was pretty cool. So we get to Yellowstone, and so my dad and stepmom, they went in to check in, which this was a time, you could leave your kids in the car too during this, during this age where, don't do it now.
No, now you're fixing 20. Now you're fixing 20 to life. By the way, yeah,
right. So, but which I'm in agreement. You should not leave them in the car. But
yeah, that's true.
You did leave them in the car.
Yeah.
And so of course,
just roll the window down a little bit, sonny. Just roll the window down a little bit. You'll be okay. I'll be back in about 3 hours. Just stay in the car.
Right.
That was the 80s.
Right. And I mean. Yeah, I mean, we're literally around like hundreds of people because this is the summertime, Yellowstone National Park. So this parking lot is jam-packed. And it's not, a small parking lot. This is huge. So we're sitting in the car, waiting for him to go check us in and come back. So, my brother turns around and he's about 2.5 years older than me. And he was like, hey, why don't we put these rain bells on and see if we can make it rain? I was like, that's a great idea. Let's do it. And so we put them on. And so we shook them, and we did our best Native American chant that we could. And damn if it didn't start raining. So, of course, it freaked us out. We're like, oh, my God, it just started raining. We did this little rain bell chant. And so, you could chalk it up to coincidence. But for us, what happened was...
That was mind-blowing.
We sat there for a minute. Well, here it gets even better because we sat there for a minute and we was like, okay, if we make it rain, sure, we can make it stop raining by doing the same thing. So we shook our bells, we did our little chant, and it stopped. And we took those bells off and didn't touch them the rest of the trip. And we, to this day, we still talk about that. We're still like, what exactly happened there? Do you believe it was coincidence? Do you believe we made it rain? And for me, I'm like, I have lived my life since that day fully believing that I made it rain and that there are no limitations to us if we allow ourselves to tap into it without the doubt or anything that has watered that down, which to me, I do believe society does do. It said, well, you can't do this, you can't do that, shouldn't do this, shouldn't do that. Well, what happens if you release that and decide, well, I can do anything? So that really sparked an interest in me into what was possible in the world. And I said it multiple times on Shadows in the Dark that I was a believer, because I would always get asked, do you believe in ghosts? Do you believe in UFOs? Do you believe in Bigfoot? The list goes on. I would say what I believe in is possibilities. I'm not going to say Bigfoot exists, but I believe the possibility of him existing is absolutely there.
Yep.
So that means what else is possible? And I think it opens ourselves up. And so once I got into doing the show, now right before I started doing the show, I did start getting into a little bit of ghost hunting stuff, and EVPs intrigued me. I thought that was just the most amazing thing. And I still do to this day, out of all of the things that, these paranormal investigators have brought to the forefront, EVPs are the most fascinating. And the one thing I should think that they should just really focus on and keep exploring, because you cannot explain that. There's no way. And it's not a rogue radio signal because I've yet to hear Britney Spears come through. You just can't explain it because I've heard them answer questions, my questions. Yep. I've heard answers come back once I go back and listen. I've heard sentences, one words, languages, different languages. I mean, it's insane. So that, getting into the ghost hunting and the paranormal investigations really kind of was a platform for that. but still going back to when I was 10 years old and the possibilities that I believed exist. And that's why the show was very broad. It was hard to call it a paranormal talk show or a paratalk show, because we didn't just do the paranormal. There was things that we just found intriguing, like Tuvan throat singing. It's not paranormal. There's no mystery to it. But my God, to hear one person make this grunting noise while whistling the melody over top of it from the same mouth, that's intriguing. That is amazing. And so we would focus on stuff like that we thought, which, okay, I do have to be honest, and Robert Schneck used to say this all the time, and he was a regular guest on the show, an amazing writer, and you want to talk about strange history of America, that's the guy to look up, is Robert Schneck. But he used to say, he was like, you know, man, he's like, you only do what interests you on the show. I was like, I kind of do. I was like, luckily my interests are very, very vast. And, you know, I was like, but you're absolutely right. If I find it intriguing, I want to do a show on it. I want to talk to that person. And I mean, I would be sitting there and I would watch a TV show, a documentary or something, and be like, I want to talk to that person. And I would dig until I figured out how to contact them. Like, please come on the show and talk about, you know, XYZ, you know, whatever they had going on. And I loved it. I mean, I really do miss the show. It was absolute fun. The people I got to meet through the show, yourself, Robert Schneck, Charlie Carlson, Don Smith. I mean, the list just goes. I could sit here and name so many people that have made an impact on my life. And, you know, I still stay in contact with today. It's not like I went off the air and I never talked to anybody ever again. It was, you know, I made lifelong friendships with a lot of people, and good people and different people. I mean, this, you know, across the whole spectrum, you know, nobody's the same, and everybody has different beliefs, but you can still be friends and you still get along and talk about these intriguing things that come across the news channels or the radio waves. And it's missed because of a lot of that.
I'll tell you what, you just echoed the reason why I came back to doing this podcast after not doing it for a few years. You know, I felt the same way. I mean, I walked away when my health got bad and my mother passed away, and I looked back on it and I was like, I might never go back to doing the show, and I was just kicking it on the round table with some friends. I did some Skywatchers for a little bit, but I never felt comfortable really hosting the show by myself again. And so the show kind of spent a few years away, but it was always when there was something on the news or something that piqued my interest that I was like, man, I wish I was doing the JACKALS Head, because that's what we do here also. And again, yes, folks, it's because of Jeremiah Greer that this show exists, and that's why this show is about everything, not just UFOs or aliens. But it's funny how the paranormal, Jeremiah, has become normal in a lot of ways now. What always gets me, and you touched on EVPs. I think, you know, Art Bell hit it on the nose when he said, folks, by the way, rest in peace, Art Bell. When he said, folks, one day the veil's going to drop. And he kept talking about the veil dropping and what is coming. Remember the quickening, all the stuff he talked about years and years and years ago. A lot of that paranormal stuff is becoming more and more in your face, more and more evident that there's something going on. You see more, you know, networks taking a little bit more serious, and the EVP stuff always creeps me out. And, you know, you're talking about that. What really gets me, and out of all the stuff that I've heard over the years, is when I hear kids' voices coming through on these EVPs. When I hear children answering questions that are being asked, and I see it sometimes on video, and I'm like, how the heck could they have hoaxed that? Well, yes, they could have had a kid on the side saying, you know, the answers, or yelling, you know, responses. You have to, you know, either be there sometimes to be 100% satisfied with what you're hearing, or sometimes you have to just take it as, you know, faith. There's a big F word right there, because we live everything on faith, whether it's religion, whether it's on your political beliefs, whether it is paranormal, no matter what it is, whether your kids are going to take care of you when you're old and gray and you're in a hospital bed. Everything's on faith. Nothing's concrete. But, if you put faith into what you're hearing, when I hear those kids, Jeremiah, it's heartbreaking to know that something happened to them. They're not on this earth. And now it could be, what do you think the EVPs are actually capturing? Because I always took it as it's either really an entity that's still there, or it's something that's recorded in the atmosphere somehow because of the area, and there's some other kind of freak phenomenon happening here, which might has nothing to do with the soul or anybody actually physically being there. I mean, what are your thoughts on that part of it?
Well, see, and that was one of the things that I really loved about doing the show, was that ability to dig into the different theories behind things. And, EVPs, I'm going to tell you, the first time I ever listened to any EVPs, I listened to one. I found this website, and it was like all they focused on. And I listened to one, and the next thing I knew, like 6 hours later, I was finally getting up from the computer and getting off their site because it just captured me. And I would not sleep with my hand over the side of the bed that night. Yep. And I'm not very easy to scare, but I was like, oh my God, But when you look at them, I mean, like I said, I'm a believer in possibilities. I love talking about theories because nobody knows the true answer behind it. Some things will make a little more sense. Like, you always hear the theory of rogue radio signals. I don't buy into that because, again, I've not heard Britney Spears come over any of my EVPs. And I recorded thousands upon thousands of EVPs, or at least audio, and then got EVPs out of them.
So nowhere we're never gonna hear you say, hold on, and hear in the background, oops, I did it again. And then you're like, wait, I think I got an answer. What'd you do? What happened? That's never gonna. You never heard that.
I don't think it's gonna happen, but
no.
But I do kind of. There is that torn between, is it an entity that's there? Because I have heard responsive ones, EVPs, that would lean you towards that theory. But then there's also ones, that is it just something, I guess kind of in the air, or I guess you go back to the belief, or what we're taught in school. If you want to buy into everything you're taught in school, that everything is energy, and energy can neither be created or destroyed. So whatever is kind of out there, even words or energy, that it's a sound that goes out, does it stay? When I say, hey, I'm on the Jackal's head, is that going to bounce around the rest of the world for all eternity? And
I don't know about that, but it's going to make a great sound clip later on when I put a bit together promoting the show. That was really good. I like that. I'm going to clip that out of that. Go ahead, continue.
But that is a possibility, that energy is just bouncing around in the universe, and something happens to be on the right frequency to pick it up. So, you can easily get torn between different theories that are like, okay, they make sense. That can make sense, but we're not to the point of being able to absolutely say what it is. But they're just so fascinating because, again, you get so many different EVPs. I've had direct responses that just blew my mind. I've had ones, we had one that we did in a historical home in Waynesville, North Carolina. And we had, I don't even know how many recorders going. We had, video recorders. We had digital recorders. We had cassette recorders. We had the whole 9 yards. And we had an EVP that picked up at the exact same timestamp on every single piece of equipment that recorded audio that night. And that just blew my mind. And It told us to get out. That's what it said in a whisper. It was like, get out. And you want to talk about sending chills through your entire body whenever you're sitting there listening back to this and you find on every single piece of equipment that is recorded audio the same thing the same, being said the same way. It wasn't like it was multiple times. It was like this, whatever said it was present throughout that entire house, which was humongous. And it sent all of us into chills and like, oh my God, that's insane right there.
That would make me, do the next thing. I would get out. I would just. I mean, look, I've skywatched. I've done a lot of things that creep me out. But when I hear something say "get out," I'm getting out. I'm just saying
Right.
I value your work because I would not stay there personally.
Well, I guess that's the good thing about EVPs is, I mean, most of the time you don't even hear it until you're done and you're back listening to your stuff. Now, if we would have heard it that night, yeah, we probably would have been out the door, leaving a nice little note like, we're sorry for interrupting whatever you had going on. We apologize. We will not be back. We'll let the new tenants know that they're not welcome either, whatever you want. Because, I mean,
don't follow me where I'm going. Don't follow me where I'm going, please. Exactly. But, I mean, I had EVPs too that, they were almost comforting in a way, just the way the response was or the voice you picked up. We picked up music once in a playhouse. It sounded like somebody strumming on a guitar. There was nobody there with a guitar. There was nobody playing a guitar. Nobody brought a guitar. So how did we record? And I play the guitar, so I'm pretty sure I know what a guitar sounds like. And it was like 3 short little strums on the guitar, and that was all it was. And, again, the things you pick up with them on EVPs. But now, one thing I will say, I recommend never do it in your own house. Yeah,
never,
excellent.
ever.
Yeah, that's an excellent thing to recommend. And that's something I definitely, and don't play with Ouija boards.
Yeah, dude. Mess with those because they will
oh my goodness,
freak you out.
I'll tell you, I had an experience with a Ouija board, Jeremiah, when I was a kid. I was maybe about 12. I was at a cousin's house, and my cousin was about maybe 15 or 14 at the time. We were not separated by much. And there was a neighbor there from right next door who was maybe in his early 20s, a couple other folks. And my cousin busted out with a Ouija board. There was his brothers who wasn't there, and my other cousin. And we started messing around with the Ouija board, and I was like, this is nonsense. They sell this for kids in the kids section at Toys R Us. No, by the way, Toys R Us, rest in peace. There's another, thing that's gone since we first met. But they used to sell Ouija boards in the kids section. It's a Mattel-made product. Yeah. They would sell it next to the Barbies. I know because I frequently went through the aisles with Barbie dolls. Don't ask me why. They're right next to the My Little Pony. Don't ask me why. But I would, as a kid, I would be like, this is just weird. But the Ouija, what the hell's a Ouija board? And I asked, and my cousin was like, oh, I got one of those. And, we were talking about paranormal stuff. As a kid, I've always been intrigued with the paranormal. And he brought out a Ouija board, and I had a really bad experience. And ever since that moment, I was like, yeah, I'm never messing with Ouija boards. Now, I don't know if they were messing with me or it was just them trying to, one-up me because I was, a kid. I don't know what was going on. Maybe they were moving it. Maybe I was drunk. I don't know. But I tell you what, that thing said certain things that freaked me out at the time. And I said I'm never messing with the evil darkness that comes from those wretched plastic cardboard things called a Ouija board, and I never bought one, never used one again. And I'm not normally a fearful fella. I can't go into abandoned buildings and not get scared that often. But that literally scared the shit out of me, man. To the point I want nothing to do with Ouija boards. Have you had any experiences similar to that with Ouija boards at all?
Yeah, man, those things can definitely freak you out. We messed around with them when we were little, and I definitely agree. Why in the world they're in the board game section of the toys? Yeah. It just blows my mind because that's not a toy. I've seen things with them. It's like, no, there's something to them. And now there was a conference that I spoke at back in the days when I've done shows in the dark, and this one group did this really cool experiment with a Ouija board. And what they had, a planchette, which is what you put your fingers on, the little tear-shaped thing.
Right.
And they had one specifically designed that would register pressure and how much pressure was being put on it when it moved. And there was less pressure on that thing when it moved than if you were sitting there with it. And that is scientifically backwards. There should be more pressure if you're pushing something with your fingers, correct, obviously. Right. And this thing was like hard. It definitely was resting. Everybody was just barely resting their fingers on it. And it was moving all over the place. And definitely that night, if any other time I had ever messed with a Ouija board, it was like, okay, there is something to this more than just being a board game that Mattel sells to people as if you can contact the spirit world. You're messing with something. Don't know what it is. Things behind. I mean, again, you get into the possibilities. Is it the spirit world, or is it some kind of manifestation of your own thoughts? Which again, I believe is highly possible. So, either way it goes, it's spooky.
Oh, I'll tell you what, and I've often thought this, if it is some kind of a spirit or entity or anything like that, it almost has to be demonic. And the way the reason I say this is because if heaven's a real place, right, and heaven exists and hell exists, mm-hmm, and most folks are good and they're going to heaven, leap of faith, I know, because most folks are scumbags. Not all. But there's a lot of you out there. We know that. And I've been guilty of doing scumbaggery things in my day. Nobody lives in a glass house. We've all done our dirt. But if God forgives us all and we're all welcome into the kingdom of heaven, except of course when you're a rapist, killer, pedophile, or you work for the church, because they're kind of all in one. Unless you're one of those guys, you're going to heaven, right? It's a wonderful place. There's clouds, there's birds, there's little angels with trumpets singing, and they're floating, right, and it's like that movie with Robin Williams, What Dreams May Come, and you're floating, and it's a beautiful place, right? And God's this loving entity who, for some strange reason, hates gay people. I don't understand that, because God's never wrong. He made everybody, everything. But you're in this eternally blissful nirvana. Who would stay behind on this shitty place? The bad ones, right? Maybe the people who did. Hey, you're not welcome here. So I've often thought, don't mess with that, because chances are you're not really contacting cousin, Barney, who passed away 25 years ago. You might be contacting some kind of demonic being that's going to say, yeah, I'm Barney, and how you doing there, cousin? And they're going to lead you into ways that are probably not very pretty, if it's real. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I stay kind of away from that. But, I am always intrigued to watch videos on YouTube and listen to shows that deal with EVPs and stuff. And the YouTube stuff, nowadays it's creepy, but a lot of the stuff, being that I want to film also, I know how a lot of, tricks are done in camera. Exactly. And it's really hard to take, stuff like that you see on YouTube with, any seriousness sometimes, because you gotta have to have a really huge grain of salt whenever you watch anything on YouTube, because there's so many con artists out there, and that's really sad in the paranormal community. And I know on your show, Shadows in the Dark, you really took a stab at establishing at least, a continuity of, well, I'm not taking one side or the other. Let the audience decide. But, I do like the fact that you took a high road when it came to, criticizing But now, since you've done the show, it's gotten so widespread, the fakery and the fraud, that it's almost like it makes you get angry when you see something that is clearly, BS or made up. I mean, as a person who, interviewed hundreds of people at this point, whether it's paranormal ufology, when I see something clearly that it's fake, I get really upset. Have you been angered to the point yet, that you've really looked at it and said, my goodness, I have to come back to radio and just start pointing this crap out, because I know what's real, I know what's not, I can tell, and I know you can tell because you're a very educated person.
It's definitely tempting, because you do see it, and it kind of goes back to, we were talking about earlier about how everybody, the likes and the dislikes, and it's like what everybody shoots for, and that's what brought a lot of that on is especially when you can monetize it. And you've got people making millions by providing content, and all they have to really do is just get the viewers. It doesn't matter the quality of the content. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. It's just who puts eyeballs on it, and boom, you're a millionaire. So the integrity is really lost in what a lot of these, paranormal investigators or paratalk shows, and even some of these other ones, along those lines have tried to do for years. Now, you've always had people like that. There's no doubt. You've always had people tricking people. It's probably, it's among some of the oldest professions is to trick people for money. But it's amplified by so much because everybody has a computer in their hand. Your phone, it's not a phone anymore. It's a computer. You just happen to be able to make calls from it. We used phones back when we were young that you push the buttons on, and you had when you bought it, you had a 5-foot cord, but you had to buy the 100-foot cord so you could walk around the damn house with it.
Yes.
Man,
I remember when having a phone in your room was like the cool thing. And you would tell everybody, I got my own phone line in my bedroom. What do you have?
That's right.
I got nothing.
I remember when
I'm so much cooler than you.
Yeah, man, because my parents did that. They got us our own phone line. We thought we were just awesome, and I was laughing about this the other day because a complete change of subject here, but, cell phone bills are very high. People, $100 a month for a phone. If you get a couple, $200, $300, $400, and somebody was grumpy, like, this is crazy. My phone bill wasn't never this high a long time ago. I was like, step back and think for a minute. Back in the days before cell phones, start there first. If you made a long distance call, your cell phone would be $300, $400. Now your long distance is included. It doesn't matter who you call. It's going to be the same. And then also remember, then when cell phones did come out, you had to wait till 9 o'clock to talk, or you're going to lose all your minutes and your bill's going to skyrocket.
Yep.
But now you talk any time of the day and your bill will stay the same. So it's like, you're almost like you're prepaying for everything that you didn't prepay for 20 years ago. So it's like, it's not that your bill's higher. It's just like everything's built into it now. The telephone is for, let's not wait for people to do it. Let's just go ahead and charge them for it and give them the ability to do so if they wish to.
Not only that, I think folks don't understand just how much it costs to get technology this advanced. It reminds me of a comedian, I can't remember his name, but he made there was a comedian that made a joke about an airline who, this is back when the internet was still in its heyday, in its early days, and how it was the first time that an airline had active internet on the air. And he found it funny that he was traveling with, I think it was his uncle or something, and they were all excited to be one of the first flights, if not the first flight, that actually had the internet working, so you could be on a laptop. Mind you, this is before the mobile phone explosion of the last 5 years or 10 years. And he said that his uncle was, excited. He was excited that finally we have internet on the flight. And then, like 10 minutes into it, it got kind of shaky, and the internet went down for like 15 minutes. And the uncle was like, "Oh, this is a piece of crap. This doesn't, it's garbage. And he's like, sir, you understand that just an hour ago, this is technology that you didn't even know existed. You came on this flight not even knowing that this was going to happen. You're a part of history, and you're already complaining about it. I mean, are you serious? Enjoy the fact that you have internet in the sky. We're so much more advanced. Now everybody has, you can walk around with your dog and you have more technology in the palm of your hand than we had when we went to the moon, Jeremiah. That's amazing.
Exactly. I mean, today when, something comes across that you don't know about, all you have to do is Google it. I mean, the things I learned from Googling, honestly, a lot of my show would not have existed if Google didn't exist. Because I would have had to go to the library. I would have to, drive, waste gas, and all this to figure out this stuff. But I did all my engineering, design work, because I learned Photoshop from Google.
Yeah.
Site together, because I learned email from sitting there in front of Google. The list goes on and on. I even put, which I haven't had to do a resume in a while, but the last time I had to turn a resume for a job or a job interview, it says in my education, the Community College of Google. I put it in there because I fully believe that there is a truth behind that. That with this access we have, as much as the internet also opens up a lot of issues and brings a lot of things, a lot of problems, but there's also very good things that come from it. And I believe in before you know it, Google will start issuing some kind of degree if you can prove you learned something through Googling it. Why not? I believe I deserve a couple degrees at least from
Google University. It's coming. I'm telling you. Yeah.
Yes.
It's funny you say that, but Google controls it. People don't understand this. Not only do they control the search engine, right? They're the top dog, but their technology is mind-boggling because it's controlling really most of the world at this point, and eventually Google is going to be everywhere. If it's not there already. People just think, it's just a search engine. No, Google is one of the top, if not the top company in the world right now. Think about that.
Absolutely. And, I don't, and, I always hate kind of saying, well, most people don't know, but you never know how many people know. But, definitely there are people who don't realize there are very few companies who own all of the other companies in the world. Like YouTube is owned by Google, Instagram owned by Facebook, et cetera. And the list goes on and on. If you can pull up a list of all the companies that Google own, and it would absolutely blow your mind because you're like, well, I didn't realize they own that. And you use it every day. These large corporations are such a big part in our lives. We don't realize how much they truly are because we see them as separate companies because they're branded different, but they're all still owned by the same company.
It's funny that I got into that same conversation with my pops who didn't know that Kentucky Fried Chicken was owned by Pepsi, and they have to tell Pepsi, and Pepsi and Coke own everything also when it comes to food. We were sitting at a KFC and my dad was like, I like the chicken here at KFC more than I like the Taco Bell chicken. I'm like, that comes from the same places. They're owned by the same people.
Exactly.
It's the same chicken.
Yeah, Sid, I don't know if y'all have them down there, but like even here, right down the road from me, there's a KFC Taco Bell. It's all, you go in, one half of the menu is KFC, one half of the menu is Taco Bell. Because again, it's owned by the same company. So now they're just trying to cut costs instead of having two buildings.
The best one is, the best one is one that has Pizza Hut also in it, by the way. The 3-in-1.
Yes. Yep. It is amazing how many, corporations or how many few corporations own all the other companies, which is, in my opinion, some of our issues in today's world in terms of poverty and the right to have enough money to survive because there's too much control in that money under very few people at the end of the day.
I mean, that's always kind of been part of this country's, motif, though. I mean, look what happened with Blockbuster Video when they came out. They destroyed the video industry. What happened years later? Netflix, Redbox, and the funny story behind that, Netflix offered to sell to Blockbuster for about $1 million or a couple $1 million, and Blockbuster just had launched Blockbuster Online, and they were kind of doing the same, kind of similar thing where they were going to start shipping out movies if you order them through the internet. But then Netflix was like, well, we'll sell you our product, and you can use our, and this will be yours. And if Blockbuster would have done that then, they probably would still be around today. But they're like, nope, we're good. Don't worry about it. So what did Netflix do? Bam. Blew up, took them out of business. There's always a bigger fish. Technology keeps on growing and moving. Amazon, look what it's done to retail. Retail's dead. Why? Because
God.
You can sit at home, order on Amazon if you're an Amazon Prime member like I am. Stuff that's in your house in a day or two. It's amazing. But
man, they deliver so quickly, it is ridiculous. That is insane how fast they get things to you. I mean, there are some things you can order it that morning and it'll be to you I've even heard people get it that same day.
Yeah,
if you live close enough to their warehouse and you order it early enough, boom, it's to you the same day.
Yeah. No. And now, Jeremiah, now that they're going to have drones deliver packages to people's homes.
Yeah.
Do you know how crazy they were entering the time where you're going to have drones deliver packages? No longer people. You don't need a truck. You don't need the mail. You're going to have an actual ship, a little drone, fly a box, and just drop it off in your lawn, and then fly away. When I was a kid, that was science fiction. That's going to happen now.
And, I will say that, it is exciting and worrisome at the same time, to watch technology grow, because we are doing amazing things, and it is, and maybe, let's throw out a theory out there, kind of stepping back, because again, I love theories. So we are moving very quickly with technology, which can make time seem to move faster. Right? Because we're advancing so quick. We think, well, oh man, it's going to be years before we see that. And boom, it's next year. That we think, this technology is not going to exist yet. But then all of a sudden, boom, it's unveiled to the world. Oh, we can do this now. And it's absolutely nuts to see how fast we are going, and to even think 5 years from now where we're going to be at. I would say even back in like the 80s and 90s, saying 5 years from now, I would not envision that much technology. But today, 5 years from now, it'll almost be like a completely different world, because of how much new technology comes out and how much these companies are pressing for it. Which means you've got to be, kind of back to Blockbuster. If you're not willing to change, or you're not willing to see in the future as you build your business, you're going to die. Your business is going to just fall off the face of the earth, because you're not going to keep up with the people who do see that and who do envision, what can we do in 5 years? That's revolutionary.
Exactly.
And that's what's amazing. We're moving so fast with it.
Like Art Bell said, my friend, it's the quickening. It's happening all around us. It could be the Mandela effect. Jeremiah, I know we've run over the hour here. I know you're a busy family man. God bless you, man, for being here with me. And, you're also a singer, songwriter, business owner, like we've mentioned. Is there any website links you want to put out there so people can follow what you're doing today? Please go ahead and give away, man. Anything you want to talk about?
Oh yeah, the only website I really got going right now, I do, a lot of this that I've always been into. History is always important. So I've got an online store where I sell vintage and nostalgic items. To me, it's preserving history and bringing people's memories back up. And the store's called Almost Unused. You can visit it. It's Etsy, Etsy.com. They don't just do crafts. You can also sell vintage stuff on there. If you just go to almostunused.etsy.com, You can check out all of our vintage stuff. We got a lot of 80s, 90s stuff, you know, on back, some historical things, stuff like that. So that's about the way that, you know, my other business, it's just a private, I'm a mail contractor. I haul the mail. So I don't know, I might be driving a drone one day to deliver packages, but so,
as long as you're not taking, as long as it's not a package that's taking, we'll be good.
That's right. That's right. But no, man, I really appreciate you having me on. This was a blast. And hey, anytime, you know me, I can talk about anything forever and go on for hours, because I enjoy talking about the world and what goes on in it and people and what's going on in their minds and my own minds, you know, because I'm just like everybody else. I'm just, you know, trying to survive, understand the world, figure out the mysteries behind it. Why am I here? Why are you here? Why do we just keep spinning in a circle around the sun? You know, so, you know, it's always fascinating to be able to talk about things like that.
I tell you what, my friend, like I said earlier, the internets and the world of the paranormal needs you. And whenever you're ready to come back, you know you have a home here on PSN Radio, and we definitely want to have you back on Inside the Jackal's Head, because you're somebody, man, I tell you what, I love talking to you. You're a fascinating person. And, you know, you're, again, the main person that got me off Block Talk Radio.
Block Talk Radio.
So I will always be grateful for your inspiration to me, to the show, and for believing in it, brother, because back then I don't think even I believed that this show could go anywhere, and it really hasn't made me rich. But you know what? It's always fun to get on the air and talk to you and other folks who I've made friends with. But you're a top dog here, man. I'll tell you what, you're always welcome to be a voice inside the Jackal's Head. And God bless you for being who you are. And your family, lovely folks, take care of them. Stay safe. And come back very soon, man. I want to keep talking to you. I know we're running over time here, but I definitely want to have you back on soon. Promise you'll be back soon.
Absolutely.
No more,
anytime. You just let me know, and I will make the time for it.
No more 6-year hiatus, please.
Like I said, you tell me when, and I'll be there as long as there's nothing pressing.
Thank you, sir. God bless. Have a great evening.
I appreciate it. You too.
Take care. Take care, brother. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the world-famous, world-renowned Jeremiah Greer, and this has been an amazing episode of Inside the Jackal's Head. Guys, gals, this will be live on psn-radio.com, probably within the next few hours. I'm going to post it again so you can hear the replay, not live, but the replay of the show. It'll be on the website and on SoundCloud within probably a few minutes if you want to download it, if you missed it, and you're just catching up maybe the last little bit. If you missed the entire episode, we went through a lot tonight, and the guest was awesome as usual. Jeremiah Greer. Check out, again, his website, his store. It's on www.etsy.com/shop, SHOP, /almost unused. That's ALMOSTUNUSED. Almost unused, all one word. Look up the website. It's vintage goodness. Check him out. Buy some of the products, man. I'm sure you're gonna go through there and look at what he has on there. You're gonna love some of that stuff. So check out the website again, and we'll be back next week with another fascinating show, another fascinating individual. We have Mr. Robert Morningstar coming back to Inside the Jackal's Head. Robert Morningstar, a brother at arms. We're going to talk a little bit of politics. As we're doing here a lot, we're going to talk about stuff that's happening in the world of ufology, paranormal again. We're going to touch on that. Robert Morningstar, somebody like Jeremiah, who's been a friend for many years and is somebody who has, as soon as I decided I was going to do this show, I wanted to have him back on immediately because he's, like Jeremiah Greer, an amazing individual. And check out Robert Morningstar on Google and YouTube. He's all over the place. Jeremiah Greer should be all over the place. He should be on the podcast. Damn it, I miss hearing from him. We're going to have him back on soon, and hopefully he's on as a regular. Just like Mr. Morningstar, I want to have him on as a regular. And Steve Bassett, we're going to have for sure reach out to him and then try to get him back on here on the show as a regular. And we're going to explore a lot of different things on the show, not just UFOs and paranormal. Again, a lot of politics, some sports. So keep coming back here.